Yeah.
Good.
All right, and we should have that going. All right, and do I have, hey, it's 7:30, so let me resume the recording. And so it is 7:30, so we will call this April 12th, 2021 council meeting to order. We will begin tonight with prayer and pledge. Everyone will join me. Start first with our Father,
Father, who
who art in heaven,
hallowed
be thy name.
thy kingdom
The
come,
kingdom come,
thy
thy will be done
on earth
on earth as it is in heaven.
as us this day our
Give us
daily
this day,
bread.
and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation,
Deliver us
and
from
kingdom,
evil.
and
Power,
amen.
wherever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of
of
America,
America,
to
to
the
the republic
which is
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Brian, roll call.
Okay, Cosgray,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Hamilton,
Present.
Hankinson,
Hankinson is absent.
Keller,
Present.
McCreary.
Here.
All right. So we got 5. We'll have a meeting. First item is the approval of the minutes from the March 22nd meeting.
Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes as approved, emailed out and written.
Cosgray, second.
All right.
Mayor, before you vote,
Discussion on those?
question.
Yeah.
And on the back, on the, right below the physical officer, about halfway down on page 2. Just below the solicitor, let's put it that way.
Okay.
I thought we had that line extended out on Holder Road. I know it was extended out past Howell's place at one time.
Sewer line?
Correct.
It only goes to Keller's house.
Okay, Killers.
Yeah. Mr. Keller on the right, not Dennis, is his great uncle, I think it is.
Right. George.
No,
Owen.
Owen Keller. Owen Keller's got lift stations, a very deep lift station. That's as far as the sewer goes. It doesn't go any further than that.
Okay, because I knew I put it in down there past well, it used to be Templeman's place, just past that.
Yeah, Owen Keller extended it and put a lift station into his house. Everything past that's on private septic. For sure. And even across the street from him.
Okay, that's Howell's, right?
I don't know where Hal is.
Should have been the next one down from, well, where Templeman's used to live.
I don't know either of those properties. I just know Owen Keller is as far as it goes.
That, Mike, that's the beginning end Holder.
That's the beginning of Holder. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but the minutes are good then, Mike?
I guess so, since you moved the beginning of the road back on. I thought it started right there at 256 from a long time ago.
All right. Any other discussion on the minutes? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Abstain.
and Cosgray.
Yes.
All right, 4-0 with 1 abstention. Minutes will be approved as
I
written.
wasn't there.
Move. What's that?
Sorry, no. Nothing.
Moving on then, agenda. I don't have any amendments tonight, so unless anyone else does, do we have a motion to accept the agenda that was sent out?
I'll make a motion. We accept them as written.
Foreman,
All
second.
Foreman second, discussion on the agenda. Hearing none, roll call.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
All right, we have an agenda. Next item is visitors. I've got no email comments, though based on our public hearing, we're going to talk about visitors joining the meetings as part of a new business item a little bit later. So at least for right now, I've got no visitor comments. So moving on, as soon as I get to me, sorry guys, I just lost my spot. I had a whole bunch of notes for my stuff. There we go. My report, I know there was a meeting in Washington today. There's been a proposed infrastructure bill. There is no actual bill in Congress. It's just a proposal. I'm sure we've all seen it, the $2.3 billion. But for the first time in a long time, it includes water and wastewater infrastructure. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Hopefully there will be a bill that will help provide us with some funding for water and wastewater infrastructure. But you guys see the news too, so we'll all keep our eyes on it. And as soon as we get an actual bill with a plan, I'll start calling our delegation in Washington to say, hey, we could really use this water and wastewater infrastructure money. So, you know, let's get this going.
Hey, Mayor.
Yeah.
Mayor, you said 2.3 billion. I think that's trillion.
Yeah.
It is trillion. You are correct. It is trillion. 2.3 billion they wouldn't be arguing about. Thank you for the correction. And then the last couple of weeks, most of at least stuff I've been working on, we're going to cover in a little bit with a cemetery question, some festival stuff, and Terry's going to give us an update on the Cozy Corner building and some of the issues with it. But we'll get to those in a bit because I want to get it over to Terry because Brad has also joined us to give us an update on wastewater. And I think are you currently missing dance class, Brad, with your kiddo?
No, I'm not actually. No, we're not.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right, but I want to be respectful of his time, so we'll get it over to Terry and Brad for their updates.
Okay, I'll let Brad go first so he can, so he doesn't have to stay through the whole meeting. So go ahead, Brad, give us your update.
yeah, sure. We are having the press will be out tomorrow. We are done with the belt press. Went fairly smooth. We processed roughly 810,000 gallons is what we processed. We wasted about 515,000 is what we wasted out of the plant and the digesters. We got our plant down to less than a 1% solids, which was our goal. The membranes, we were actually able to increase the process gallons per minute by anywhere from 35 to 55 gallons a minute just by getting rid of solids. We still need to do our cleans on the membranes. We weren't able to do those yet just because of the water usage that the press needed. We weren't able to use the water to clean those membranes, which is fine. We're looking at doing that probably later this week, starting that process. We will start hauling the sludge out that we pressed on Wednesday. And by next week, we should have everything ready to put bags in and to keep up with our sludge and our solids. So right now it's looking pretty good for us with the membranes and how they are reacting to the decrease in solids. Working on getting our basin down. We had it almost empty, and then this rain this past week, we had to put some to the basin. But once we get the membranes through a 24, 48 hour chlorine soaking period, those numbers for the process should increase pretty good. And it'll probably take more than one clean to get them back to normal, I'd imagine. It'll probably take 2, maybe 3 cleans to get them back to 300, 350 gallon a minute a piece. But yeah, we were pretty happy with the production of those membranes after we got rid of those solids. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. Like I said, we're working on getting the sludge out of there, and that way we can have the bags put in and have space for the summer and the fall. That way we're ready for the winter.
Hey, Brad, if the goal after the cleans is to be at 350 gallons per minute, what are they currently at? Do you know?
We're looking at around 125, 115 is where they're at right now. They were down to 70, and just by getting the solids out of the plant, we're able to bump them up to 115, 125. And by doing what we're looking at doing is we're going to shut one individual train down. We will isolate that membrane, and we will drain that tank down. We will then fill it with clean water, and we will aerate it for probably 48 hours is what we're looking at. They say 24 hours would be great. I think 48 hours is not going to hurt anything. Drain that back down after 48 hours, refill it back up, and then add sodium hypochlorite, chlorine basically to that, and let that soak for 48 hours. Probably having to add more chlorine as time goes, because that chlorine will be consumed by the solids in that tank. So we're going to try to keep, I will double check with Jack Jones from Suez what parts per million we need to keep in that tank. But we're looking at probably, I'd say, close to 200 to 250 gallons of chlorine in a 2-day period to let that soak in there. So I'll get those exact numbers from him when we get to that point. So, but they do seem to be doing better just by getting the solids out.
And so then you got to try to schedule that on a forecast when it's not going to rain a whole lot if you're going to take one down.
Yeah, pretty much. That's yeah. And we've been lucky so far, other than the cold weather we had last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, where we had to stop, but they were able to make that up by working longer hours. So trying to find the sweet spot in the weather to be able to shut a train down for anywhere from 3 to 4 days.
All right.
Did someone have some questions about the expenses at the wastewater treatment plant? If you'd like to ask Brad some questions, or Brad, if you want to tell us some of the issues that you've encountered just in the last since the beginning of the year.
Well, I mean, some of the issues have been very small. Like we had to replace a 50-foot section of 3-inch hose for our sludge tank to the belt press. It had a foot-long crack in it that was not really repairable. So we got an extra hose. We got a 2-inch pump that was made for sewer, for thicker solids, to pump from the digesters into the sludge tank to go to the belt press. And then the only thing that we've had that has broke down really was one of our compressors. The pump on the compressor went out on us, but that, as far as I know, the records show that that's the original pump, the original compressor from 2007, 2008. So the only thing that's been done to that was oil changes and filter changes, and then belts have been changed. So I'd say that's pretty good for a compressor that runs probably anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day.
I think it's an tribute to the maintenance schedule that you have at the plant, because Brad's very you know, very conscious about what he just said, changing oil change, checking everything out to all of our equipment out there. And I think this is a testament to that what I love maintenance plans that Brad knows I love. So
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, so keeping up with that is definitely something that we try to do.
any other questions for Brad? Okay, now I'm going to put you on the spot, Brad. Since you were at the, today, I want to talk about sewer plugged up sewers again. So since Brad got to view it firsthand, I thought maybe he could describe to you what they found today and where it was at.
Well, that was at North Park. Down in the bottom, I guess where North Park would end, there's kind of like a log cabin house right there. What was found was there's a dish. So underneath the manhole lids, there are dishes, and there's a plastic liner. And what that does is that prevents I&I from seeping through the manhole lids and around the seals of the manhole. Well, what had happened was somehow that dish had fallen through the manhole and had fallen down to the bottom of the manhole and had plugged that line off. So that's what was plugging up the sewer line right there. And there was some garbage that was found, some plastic bags and stuff like that. But the main reason for that backup was a dish had fallen through somehow and plugged that line up. So that dish was taken out of there and the new one was placed in. So that
But
was,
did we not find a lot of, in quotation marks, flushable wipes?
yeah, I guess you could call, yeah, debris. There was some stuff that was not supposed to be in that line. Yes, that's true. That's, yeah, usually that's when you get into a sewer that you find a lot of things that you're not supposed to be in there. So,
But I think, again, and this is part of that education program, and that maybe we need to repost that verbiage that we did, Brad, on the website. I think it was last year, about how flushable wipes are not disposable wipes. So
no.
I'll go ahead and get that around. So,
No.
Any other questions for Brad? Okay,
No.
good job, Brad. Thank you for joining us.
That's no
You can
problem.
stay or
Yeah,
go.
thanks,
It's up to
Brad.
you.
Yep.
All right. To go along with the sewer, Dryer Mallard is going to come in this week to clean and televise the line over that we're going to reline over on Park. Remember, we had that presentation on how that has you saw the video of all of the infiltration that was coming in. So they will be there this week to televise it. And then they're targeting the week of 4/26 to do that process then. So we'll be relining that. So just give you an update on that. I also wanted to update you on the Cozy Corner building because everybody's probably thinking, what is going on? You know, there's a process that I follow, and I will tell you that on the day that the roof blew off, I was on the phone with the owner. I gave him until the next day. We talked. I gave him deadlines to meet, and as of today, he has met every deadline. Those deadlines were as follows. The first week, he was interviewing contractors, and he was to have the contractor selected, which he did. The second week, he was supposed to present to me a plan of what he would be doing task-wise, and he did that. And in addition to that, he was to register with our commercial building department at Fairfield County, and he has submitted his application and his plans. So he has completed all of the requirements that I put forth to him since the roof blew off. He is anxious. He wants to get it done, but at this point in time, Bill Toole, who is the inspector, is now reviewing his plan and reviewing the repairs that he's going to make, and then we'll be in contact with him. I look to start seeing some action over there this week yet, because we had a meeting this morning and talked through it a little bit. So just to let you know, his intent is to repair the building, and he's anxious to get started. So again, it's a process, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Questions for me? I want to talk a little bit about the pool. Then I'll move on to that. The pool had its second pour today. Chuck was there and he saw it. It looks great. It's going to really be nice. Once we get it done, we'll pour again next week, and then we'll be finished with the pouring, which means then it needs to cure for a little bit, and then we'll be painting the bottom. It'll be ready to go. Brian had talked about how we've kind of overran a little bit what we projected it would be because of a couple of things. First of all, the mushroom quit working. So we've had to get a pump and parts for the mushroom, so that works. If you remember, we had steps that led down into the shallow area, and we have decided to eliminate those steps and put a handbar, so whoever's going down in that way instead of through the zero entry will be able to have a bar to hang on to. And then, as you know, the ADA chair quit working. So we had a vendor come out and look at the ADA chair, which he said is a discontinued model. They haven't made that one forever. And he also then asked, why do you have it? Because you have a zero entry pool. So I am not sure which came first, the ADA chair or the zero entry pool, but according to the vendor, that we meet the ADA qualifications because someone could, if one or two could push a wheelchair in through there or load somebody in through there. So I am not sure that we're going to fix the ADA chair this year, just based on the fact that we've had to put so much money into the pool. This winter, some squirrels had fun and in the ceiling, and a lot of the electrical work was gnawed or chewed. I think I reported that out last time. And so we had to string a lot of new wiring in the concession stand area and in the back. So it's just been those little things that we've had to do, but it's coming along, and I think it'll be a really good product once we're finished. Any questions about the pool? And Mayor, I believe that's all I have to report out on tonight, unless somebody has a question for me.
Anybody got questions for Terry? All right, we'll move on. Fiscal Officer Brian, got anything for us?
Yeah, I would like for council tonight make a motion. You know, last month when they passed the budget, they authorized the transfers. I think it was 52,000 into the street fund, 26,000 into the pool fund, and $500 to the water fund. I'd like for them to make a motion and authorize those transfers, mainly because one, I've encumbered a lot of money in the pool, and it's low on money, and I needed to pay bills for the repairs, mainly.
You can do that with just a motion. You don't need a legislation.
No, I don't need legislation, just a simple motion to do that. That's what we've been doing in the past, and it passed muster the last audit.
All right.
And plus, it's already been budgeted, so I just need authorization from them.
Okay.
So you're looking for a motion now?
No, when it comes to the motions, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Anything else then, Brian?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Jeff.
No first readings or second readings this evening. Two pieces of legislation on for a third reading, and then one tabled ordinance, which is the urban chicken and duck ordinance. And other than that, I have nothing else to add.
All right. We'll keep moving along then. Committees, finance.
Okay, Mayor, we met tonight. Brian went over the finance. Everything seems to be in good working order. We talked about the federal, what was it, federal rescue money, I guess you want to call it, I don't know what. And we kind of talked on it, how we might want to use it. And I think everybody kind of said, if we can use it to fix the water lines, that's kind of our number one priorities. And that's about it. Our next meeting is the second Monday in May.
All right. Any questions for finance? All right. Service.
And we haven't had a meeting since the last one last month, and we'll meet again. The next meeting is on the 26th of this month. The only thing I think village administrator is going to do is contact Suez regarding what we had talked about last time about bioaugmentation, which would probably help reduce solids in the plant by just introducing a better bug selection, if you will. But that's really all I've got. Next meeting on the 26th.
All right. Questions for service? All right. Safety. Oh, well, Bob's out. So safety hasn't met since the last meeting. They meet again on the 26th, right after service. And rules.
Thank you, sir. We met tonight, and I think everybody was present that heard everything, and we discussed everything in that. Our next meeting will be May the 10th at 6:15.
All right. And then questions for rules? All right, moving on. Public safety reports. Police. DC, so you're muted.
I have nothing to report unless anybody has any questions of me.
All right, I have one thing for you, DC. So everyone knows the Ohio General Assembly, in its infinite wisdom, passed a law that was so woefully inarticulate that they meant to apply some provisions about restraining pregnant women and meant to write it for jails and prisons, and it applies to police officers in the street. And I think I've seen better pieces of legislation drafted from third graders. In any event, DC, I've been working with a couple of city attorneys and other municipalities on how to apply it in the field, because it removes qualified immunity. It creates civil liability for the officers individually and for the municipality employing them if you knowingly handcuff a pregnant woman without first getting medical clearance to do so. So I'm working on a question and answer best practice with some other municipalities, and as soon as I get that finalized, I will send that over to you guys to share with everyone.
Okay. Have you had any experience in the field yet dealing with this? Because I have one example.
Not yet, though. I've been getting a lot of questions because, believe it or not, in one of my municipalities, occasionally pregnant people do get arrested. So what was your example?
One night last week, I overheard Fairfield County Sheriff's Office had arrested a woman. I believe she was one of the local stores. They're over off 33, Meyer or Walmart or any of those. Mm-hmm. And they arrested her. It was a felony charge. The arrest was, and she was pregnant. She also had a warrant out of Franklin County for the same thing, felony theft. And neither of those agencies actually took custody of her. So she was released. Yep. Charges were filed through Fairfield County, but neither of those agencies was willing to put themselves out there in that situation, which is understandable.
Yeah, because the advice we're given right now is, if you can make an arrest without handcuffing the person, do so. And again, it has to be knowingly. You have to knowingly do it. So if they're obviously showing and pregnant, it becomes knowingly. But then, so everyone knows, some of the questions go, well, if we arrest a female, do we have to ask them if they're pregnant? And the law doesn't create a duty to ask. However, as soon as you arrest them and you take them to the jail, the first thing the jail is going to ask them these days are are you pregnant? So we
Yes.
do kind of have to ask. There is an emergency arrest situation in there. So if she was fighting or resisting, you could do it. But
Right.
if they're cooperative, yeah, pregnant persons are going to not get arrested for a while until the legislature fix it. So,
Right. And
but as soon as I get that Q&A stuff, I'll get it over to you.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for DC? All right. Fire district. Bob is out tonight. I haven't talked to anybody, so we will wait for a fire district update at the next meeting. All right, moving on. Planning and zoning. We met on April 8th. There were two things we considered. First thing though is, unfortunately, Jim Hochrattle had to resign from planning and zoning, so I'll be looking for a replacement for him. He had a lot of Baltimore history and institutional knowledge he brought, so he will be missed, but he unfortunately had to resign. But at that meeting, we discussed two different things. One of them was short-term rentals, and then another was lot coverages. The committee made decisions on both of those to go ahead and schedule public hearings. So at May 13th, the planning and zoning meeting is going to be public hearings for short-term rentals. Their suggestion is changing the codes to make them conditional uses. There's some registration and safety requirements there. The other part is lot coverage that Terry had brought up about how much of a lot can be impervious surfaces, and we had some discussions on that. Since these are bigger changes, we'll of course post them at all of the public hearing notices at all the regular places we do, the website and all the different places Brian puts them up. We're going to put on the website the actual changes that are being proposed so that everyone can, if they want to download it and see what the current code says and what we're changing it to, it's there so that we can have all of that out there for that public hearing. After that public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission, they take the comments and they can either decide to scrap the changes, modify the changes, or send them to council. So those will be May 13th. Again, I wanted to see how the public hearing worked tonight on ducks. No one joined. What we talked about for these public hearings for the lot coverage and short-term rentals is setting up the Zoom meeting so that it's kind of like Rick was suggesting for the council meetings here that we'll talk about, so that everybody is all in the same meeting instead of piping them through or comments and like that, so that everybody's there. We'll get those posted here probably in the next week or two. It's a month out, so but within the next week or two, so that there's plenty of time for people to get a copy of the proposed changes and review them prior to that public hearing. And that is it on planning and zoning. Anybody have any questions? All right. Question, Rick?
Yeah, I just, I know we're not the new business yet, so I won't bring it up yet, but planning and zoning is another meeting where I feel like if we don't let the people come into our Zoom meeting, it's not the same as if we had a public meeting. It's just not the same where you can have an open dialogue and bring up new issues or have an open conversation. It's just not, I don't feel like it's a public meeting, and I think we need to either go back to in-person or open these meetings to that. I don't agree with what we're doing right now.
Well, and for the council meetings we'll get to here when we get to the new business, but that's one of the things we talked about in that when how do we have the public hearing, because we know we're going to get comments on these two proposals and making sure we get everybody in there. And so we wanted to, that's basically why we said we're going to create a meeting and open it to everyone to be able to join.
Yeah, and I think the council meetings, I think Ryan Klum and, Robert Paul, I think they should have been in the meetings, whether they said anything or weighed in. I think that they should have been included. I mean, those guys, I have nothing, but they've made an investment in Baltimore, and I think that we need to give them the opportunity to be included in the meeting, because we made decisions about the things they're trying to do, and they weren't really able to be in the meeting, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, and on one hand, I can get that. On the other hand, I'm watching right now the number of people that are watching our streams, and no one was watching them. And Robert texted me, so if he was watching, he had the opportunity to watch, and he's not shy. So if he was watching and paying attention, he could have texted.
Well, I think they're both learning the importance of attending the hard way. So maybe they wouldn't have been there before, but maybe they're learning that they need to be there so that they can say their piece.
Right. All right. We'll have more discussion on that in a bit. Tree Commission. You're on mute, Terry.
Just noticed that. Sorry about that. Yes, we met last Thursday, the Tree Commission, and we have designated May 2nd of this year as our Arbor Day celebration. So heads up, Mayor, I need a proclamation, and I'll send you an email to that effect. We have selected the old firehouse as the place to put the tree. As you know, just last week, the old Scotch pine was the last big tree still standing that was diseased, and that was cut down. So we will probably replace it where the old Scotch pine was. So that will be our Arbor Day celebration for 2021. And that's all I have to report.
All right. Moving on, Records Commission. We haven't got a meeting scheduled yet, though. Given work at homes and other things that have popped up, it might be okay because we might have ended up having to cancel it. But Brian, you should have an email. I know Jeff answered. I'm circulating an email right now to figure out what day we can meet, end of April, early May. So that hopefully by the next council meeting, we have our Records Commission meeting.
Yes, I received that email.
Okay, cool. Remind your dad too.
Okay.
All right. Any questions for Records Commission or Tree Commission? All right, moving on then. Motions, resolutions, and ordinances. Any motions?
Yes, Mayor. I can't remember what all Brian said, but I know he needs to move some money so he can pay off some bills at the pool. And I don't know what all, but I'll move that Brian can move some money around to pay off some bills.
Well,
Hey,
Chuck,
Brian.
if I remember,
Yeah.
correctly, what was budgeted, I believe we budgeted 52,000 to budget 52,000 transfer to the street fund. It's 26,000 to the pool fund and $500 to the water fund. If my memory serves me correct.
Okay.
And that's all from the general fund, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll move that we do transfer that money from the general fund to them three departments.
Cosgray, second the motion.
All right. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
All right, 5-0. You can move your money, Brian. All right. Any other motions at this time?
Yes, Mayor,
right.
there's an ordinance, 20. Are you getting ready to say something, Mayor?
I was gonna say, we could do that. It's after the third readings.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
We'll do it then when we go to adopt. Yep.
I'm just jumping the gun here. I was ready. Thanks.
There you go. It's all fine. All right, first reading is done, second reading is done, third reading. Ordinance 2021-04, ordinance to amend chapter 1048 snow removal of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances. Sponsor, and this one was Hankison. Is there someone that can fill us in on this one and make the motion to adopt?
Oh, God.
Carrie, remind us, this one is, I don't have it up in front of me. Is this one isn't the parking one, this is the,
The declaration of a snow emergency.
yes, this was declaration of a snow emergency.
Okay. Did you hear, was there a motion made yet, Mary, you say?
No, we
Nope,
need a
nope.
sponsor.
Okay, I move that ordinance 2021-04 be adopted.
Are you
Jeff?
One
sponsoring?
second.
Jeff, is that correct? Was that the snow removal ordinance,
I'm
the
looking.
04?
I believe so. Hold on just a second and I'll be able to tell you. The second one, 2021-05, is the parking ordinance during a heavy snowfall. So the other one is adopting a snow removal policy.
Correct.
The declaration, okay. So Keller made the motion, who seconded?
Foreman?
Or, thank you, sir. Any further discussion on this one?
Is Chuck the sponsor then?
Yeah,
Says Hankison is.
Bob was on it. Yes.
Yeah,
since
Bob
Bob's not
is the
here.
original sponsor, but
Yeah, he's not
so
here.
it'll-
Okay.
Keller.
That'd be fine.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, roll call.
Okay, Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2021-04 will be adopted. Moving on to ordinance 2021-05, an ordinance amending chapter 452.18 of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances. This is parking during heavy snowfall. Original sponsor was Hankison.
Foreman moves to adopt.
Okay.
All right,
And I second.
Okay.
Foreman motion, Keller second. Any discussion on this one? Hearing none, roll call.
Okay, Foreman,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
McCreary.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 2021-05 will be adopted. Moving on, tabled ordinances. Ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance to amend chapter 1272.20, Planning and Zoning Code General Development Standards, Urban Chickens of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances. Sponsor is McCreary. Now you can go, Brandy.
Sorry, guys. I had my information all written down here. So this ordinance, Mayor, is the ordinance regarding specifications for sanitary conditions, fencing and such regarding ducks. So we're wanting to add those. So I would like to motion to bring this off the table.
All right,
Keller seconds.
I think I heard Keller in there before Foreman on that, so we'll second. All right,
That's fine.
roll call on bringing this off the
Perfect.
table.
McCreary,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
All right, your motion is off the table. Back to you, Brandy.
All right, Mayor. So I'd like to move to accept this ordinance. And
I'll make
adopt
a
it
motion
for
to
the
adopt.
village. Pardon
There
me?
we go.
And adopt this ordinance for the
It sounds-
village.
Adopt.
There we go.
I'll second that.
All right.
Where'd you get one?
Who seconded?
Hamilton.
Okay, Hamilton, second. Thank you. Any discussion on this? And I'll just note for this meeting that there was a public hearing on this tonight at 7:15.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, the ordinance, is that saying that the ducks, people in Baltimore can have ducks now?
Yes, that's what it's saying, Josh.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, so we're allowing ducks to be in Baltimore. Okay.
We're doing a roll call?
I wasn't instructed to do a roll call, or are we ready for
I
a
think the
roll?
mayor, I think the mayor is not on right now. He's trying to
Okay.
connect.
Connecting.
Okay.
Brian can go ahead and do roll call though.
I mean,
Well,
Got a motion and a second.
Yeah,
like,
Yeah,
okay, well, then I'll do the roll call then. All right, let's see, McCurry,
Yes.
Hamilton,
yes.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
and Keller.
No,
By my count, it was passed by 4-1 vote.
It passes.
Okay. Okay, someone took over. I lost audio, so
Well, we did, there was no more discussion. We did a roll call and a vote, and it was
okay.
passed 4-1.
Okay. Since I missed it, who voted against? Just so I know.
Keller.
All right. And I'll finish my note that there was a public hearing on it earlier and no one joined. So
I gotta try me some duck though.
yeah. All right, so it's adopted. Thank you guys. Hopefully I won't lose audio again. Moving on, is there any old business? Hearing none, we have at least 4 items of new business. The first is the Baltimore Festival. Mr. Hamilton got in touch with us. Mr. Shane Hamilton got in touch with us. They are having the festival this year. And he sent us a letter. I apologize, I didn't get it forwarded onto Barb to distribute, but we'll make sure it becomes part of the meeting minutes that get posted and gets distributed to everyone. But they are having the festival August 5th through the 7th. They're going to have all 3 days with rides, games, and food. The car show will be back on the Friday evening. Parade will be on Saturday at 10 a.m. Their Saturday night headliner band is a group called British Invasion. And quite frankly, if you guys haven't seen them and you like 60s and 70s British rock, I've been going to the British Invasion Band's concerts for about 10 or 11 years now at different places around the counties here. So they're pretty good. And we'll probably bring in a big crowd. In any event, they are requesting the motion that we do annually to permit them the use of the park from August 5th through the 7th, to park the semi-trailer that is the main stage starting the Sunday prior to the festival. And they would also like to use the Johnson Shelter House for the festival board and all of their to keep all of their stuff throughout the festival. So I do know that they have some other plans that Shane is taking to the Parks Committee to talk about at the end of the month as well for some stuff. but he wanted to go ahead and, when we talked to him, go ahead and get this going so that we at least have the council motion to permit them to use the park. And Terry, have they already, because I know we have the insurance requirement, have they already got that this year to you?
No, I haven't received anything yet, just the request.
And folks, we typically do that by legislation, which spells out all of the requirements and the insurance requirements and everything like that. I think that's a cleaner way to do it rather than doing it by motion.
I think we still have time.
Okay. So, well, that works out well then, because then I'll get this letter to Barb, and then we will get it on new business or old business. We'll get it on for legislation at the next meeting, since we have a little more time. Anybody have any questions on that right now, though? All right, moving on. Item number 2 under new business is the Boswell Cemetery at Oak and West Market. I'll give Terry a second here on this, but how this kind of popped up is I got an email from the Liberty Township trustees regarding the cemetery. It started, a tree during that windstorm at the end of March fell over in the cemetery, and there was some question about who was responsible for it. That issue has since been resolved, and the tree is now gone. But the Liberty Township trustees wanted to know our thoughts on them giving the village that cemetery. I quite frankly told them, I'm not in favor of getting another cemetery, but I can't speak for council, so that I would bring it up under new business and let you guys figure out if you want another cemetery. So that's kind of where that's at. And so I'm going to, what do you guys and ladies say?
I'm with you, Mayor.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I'm with you, Mayor. No, we don't need no more.
No.
Yeah, Cosgray, no.
McCreary's no.
Hamilton, no.
Okay, it seemed like there was an agreement where there was a 50-50 sharing thing where we already do part of the maintenance on it. I mean, several of the Liberty Township trustee people have reached out to me because I'm easy to find. And there was an agreement made years ago where we are maintaining part of the cemetery at this time. And that we actually own part of the cemetery at this time. And it sounded like a cobbled together agreement made by people 50 years ago because someone wanted to be buried there, that they couldn't be buried there if they didn't. It's a cobbled up agreement. There's no doubt. But what I'm saying is, I think we should probably maintain what we've been doing so far. And what we've been doing so far is a partial maintenance of that cemetery.
Right. And I don't, what we've been doing, I think, is on one hand, because part of that is we use their shed to store some of our stuff. It's a cobbled up agreement. There's no doubt. Yeah. And we own very little of that cemetery. Very little. And that's fine if we continue that, but they wanted to give us the entire cemetery, and so that we're solely responsible for all of it. Exactly. And I told them that they used to have their village off, their township offices in Baltimore, but we didn't have to mow their grass, and we didn't have to maintain it. They're able to own property inside the town of Baltimore, and we don't have to maintain it for them because they own it. And it came down to who sells the cemetery plots and who doesn't. And I know that we don't.
We do not.
And they sort of claim that they don't. So I don't know if there's any cemetery plots to sell there or what, but I know that we're not selling them. And if we're not selling them, then they must be selling them, or are there none available? I don't know the answer to that question. They seem open to, what
at this moment, they own the property, but the prosecutor or someone at the county is telling them that once we made it completely an island in Baltimore, that we took responsibility for it. I disagree with that.
No.
Someone at the county is telling them that once we annexed the Boyven-Hosher property to the south, that it became an island in Baltimore, and that's not allowed to exist. But my argument is, no, it's not township property. It's property in Baltimore owned by Liberty Township trustees. So that's their issue right there, is they're saying, well, there can't be Liberty Township property inside of Baltimore as an island because the prosecutor says that can't exist. I agree, but they can own property as the Liberty Township trustees inside of Baltimore, and we don't have to maintain it for them. So that's the discussions that I've had.
And the last time I looked at my property tax duplicate, I paid Liberty Township property tax.
Exactly. So
I say we
Okay.
we sell them our share.
Sell them our share.
they don't want our share either, though. So you're not going to sell them your share. They're not going to take it. You can't give it to them, much less sell it to them.
So staff is in agreement that we just do as we've always did. We will do what we're supposed to do because we do, as you said, there is that agreement, and we do only own the where the flags are in the front. It's a very small postage stamp. I will tell you that that cemetery is closed, so nobody's selling any lots. If they are, and they're not supposed to be, because that is a closed cemetery. So this cemetery is much like the old church cemetery that we also have ownership, that we own. But this belongs to the township, and I think
it seems to me in my conversations that they kind of get that, but I think they want to maintain the old agreement. The problem is a tree fell and broke some headstones that needed fixed, and they're like looking for some help. And they also said that when graves are needed to be dug, that there's an agreement that we dig them and they pay us for that. And that's different than selling a plot. They're just paying us to dig the hole and put the casket in there, not the same as selling the plot. And so we had that conversation as well, that they're paying us to do a job, not to sell the plot. So these are the conversations that I've had over the last couple of weeks.
Is none of this in writing? I'm sorry.
It is actually, yes. I think Terry and the mayor got copies from Rob Alt about the.
I didn't get I don't have a contract that says about an agreement.
I specifically asked Rob Alt to send you the paperwork he had in an email so there would be a record of it. So,
well, I got an email from him that says, "Hey, we have this agreement that we've all known about for forever, but I've got nothing in writing as to this agreement."
Okay, well, I guess his version of the agreement is different than your version of the agreement. So,
but and then, yeah, and I guess when it comes to, I guess that's a good question. I don't know. To me, if a headstone is damaged, I don't know that it's anybody but the family of the deceased their responsibility, to be honest with you. I know
in the township they repair them. In the township they repair them.
Well,
I know that firsthand.
Huh.
Okay.
I've never really thought of that question. So, but it sounds like I will respond to them, and they might even be watching because I told them we'd bring it up. But I'll respond to them that we want to maintain the existing agreement, that we all have the understanding for our continued maintenance agreement, essentially, of it, but that we're not interested in taking responsibility for the entire cemetery.
I've already conveyed that quite quite adamantly.
So, all right. So we'll get that sent on to them. Next, unless there's anything else on that one. All right. Next, roof leaks at the Opera House. I will turn this over to Brandy to talk about real quick, and then I did some looking up on the lease agreement stuff, but Brandy can fill everyone in on what's going on.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So obviously, in the past couple of weeks, we had some weather, and those conditions caused some damage of nearby buildings. For those of you that don't know, so I am on the board for the BDRC, which is the Baltimore Downtown Restoration Committee. And we have that theater. It's in pretty good condition considering the age of it, but the roof has come up several times, even prior to the weather incident. But with that, it just caused some conversations and walking around, looking at the ceiling, and talking with Ken Mauger. Actually, I spoke with him, and he said that the roof had been checked. It's been 2 or 3 years ago. And at that time, the company, which actually is the same company that's working on one of the village buildings, correct, Terry? That's over at the intersection of
The old firehouse. They're going to be
the
doing
old
that.
firehouse. So they're already doing some work over there. So it just kind of worked out that they were able to come over and take a look at the roof on the Opera House. So I'm not sure of exactly what was found, if anything was found, but I think that was probably a really good idea and great timing, and at least allowing them to take a look at things.
I have some follow-up.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes. On that Friday, then I did have the company and Tim go inspect the roof. We had put a phone call into Steve to make sure that we were all looking at the same spot because there were old stains on there. They did notice that all of the box gutters, the box gutter in that corner needed repair along with the fascia. He estimated that to do the repairs to that corner of the building will be $3,500. And so that's my report.
Thank you.
All right. And then the question kind of came up as well about, since it's the BDRCs in there as well as the village offices, and there's leases, who's responsible for the payment of this? So what I found was back in 2013, in ordinance 2013-40, that was the original lease between the village and the BDRC for 5 years. It says BDRC shall use it as a theater and shall repair, restore, and maintain as a theater, and that the lessor, which should be the Village of Baltimore, was solely responsible for fire, windstorm, extended coverage, all risk casualty insurance, and that the village must approve any structural modifications. Then in 2017, the lease was amended. It was in its 4th year, but it was amended to a 30-year lease so that the BDRC qualified for an Ohio Facilities Commission grant. And so it looks to me like we own the building and it's our responsibility. I think it's a typical landlord tenant type situation. You know, the BDRC has the inside of the stuff, but we have the shell of the building. That said, I'm glad to hear that the cost might only be $3,500 and not tens of thousands. So I guess my question is it actively leaking into the 3rd floor?
I have not seen any, I guess you would say, fresh damage, new damage. I think that the conversation took place simply because we obviously have seen what can happen, and we're working with a building that is a very old building, and the roof is old as well. So it's better to be proactive than reactive in many instances.
Yeah, and if you want a $3,500 repair to not become a $10,000 repair, you need to fix it now.
Yeah.
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 And in the wind damage, the fascia, there was a piece of the fascia that is just hanging there. If you look up, you can see it. So
Yeah,
that is the area where we'd be doing the repairs.
yeah, you're ahead to stay ahead of it and not let it deteriorate further.
Yeah.
And I agree with the mayor's assessment that it's the village's responsibility as the landlord to maintain the roof, same as it would be obligated to maintain the exterior of the building, tuck pointing on the brick, that sort of thing.
So
Windows,
if I may ask, that's what my next question is. So if I may ask, where do the windows fall? Those are
Well,
the original windows.
Sure. So, and I think that that's damage wise, it would be the village's responsibility. I don't know that the village has any responsibility to replace those. I mean, to upgrade them, that sort of thing, unless funds permit that through a grant or other revenue sources. But if one is damaged, then I think that falls on the village's dime to have that repaired or replaced.
And that fell on the village's insurance problems.
Well, exactly.
Right.
So Rick, do you want to jump in on that? Rick is
Yeah.
also on the board, so he's aware. We do have some windows, which,
Yeah, the insurance, the village's insurance pointed out a couple of windows that were a health hazard or a problem. And the BDRC kind of stepped in and said, let's do something about this. But at the same time, they're probably a village responsibility.
Sure.
I mean, it's difficult to decide. That's a difficult decision.
Yeah.
weren't some windows already purchased?
Yeah, there's actually two of them sitting at my place that I've promised to install that I have not gotten to, which is on me, not anybody in this room. But yes, two of the worst windows have replacement windows sitting at my office ready to install, but the BDRC was charged for them and maybe they shouldn't have been.
Well, now, even though it may be the village's ultimate responsibility, there's nothing to prevent any organization, including this tenant, from saying, well, we want to kick in our fair share, or we want to be a good tenant, so we'll go ahead and pay for the cost of this. So
Yeah, which is fine, but moving forward, they're all getting old. The glass is literally getting ready to fall onto the sidewalks. If you look at the glazing on the windows, you have single pane glass in a wood frame with glazing holding it in, which at some point will literally fall onto the sidewalk.
and with the weather
Now,
and the wind
if-
that we've had, that really, kind of,
So
But
I'm not trying to over dramatize this, but that's the way it fails.
well, and
I may.
so if the village though were to do those windows, would they not have to be bid out because it would be a village project versus a 501c3 project?
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If I may, Judith was involved for a while and she got some bids around, it was around 44,000 or so to get that done. That was quite a few years ago, and I'm sure it's going to cost more now, but it gives us a ballpark idea of what we'll need to spend. And I think it would be a good investment for the village to do that.
Yeah, that building has a lot of windows.
and just so you know, Steve Cothrell, he did apply for a grant. Unfortunately, we didn't get the money this year. So we have, definitely there has been quite a bit of time and effort that's been put into trying to find funding to replace the windows. But, I'm sure you guys are also aware, and this is kind of where Judith was there and there was a transition, but now we do have heat and we have air in the building, which is helping to keep that building in better shape than it was before. So at least you have people that are in and out of there. and we're keeping the heat at a definitely reasonable in the winter. And, you know, and during the summer if we need to put the air on, but that doesn't happen very often. But that heating and cooling also helps the structure.
Yeah, climate control is critical.
Absolutely.
All right, so we probably still need discussions on windows, but there's also an immediate need for discussion on the roof
Well,
and that repair, correct?
Which I believe is the village's responsibility, for sure. The exterior integrity of the building is, to me, on the village. And windows is a separate conversation we can have later.
So I would like to move, Mayor. I don't know what steps we need to take, but if there would be a way to move to have money allocated for that repair.
Right, and I guess I need to ask Jeff this question to put you on the spot. So Brandy and Rick are both board members,
So we would abstain.
and where does that get us in abstentions? Can they vote on it? Should they vote on it?
I can
And
resign.
And if they
Isn't-
can't,
Isn't this something that can come out of the general fund and the VA's got just like the ability to do that?
well, at $3,500, that would be under the limit. So yeah,
There you
I
go.
say we just let her do it.
Do we have insurance that it would cover any of that?
That's what I was just getting ready to ask. Is it worth putting in a claim for the 3,500?
No, I think our deductible would be higher than that,
Yeah.
or I do not believe that.
It's doubtful in an old building.
so let me ask this then, Jeff, since it's under the limit at $3,500 to get the roof fixed, and so we don't necessarily have to figure out who can and shouldn't or should vote. Are you okay with her just based on the general consensus of everybody here that it should be fixed to prevent it from becoming a $10,000 or $20,000 repair?
Yeah.
Just going ahead and doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. And back to your point, though, if a motion were required, and I don't think it is, I don't think that Rick or Brandy should be voting on it just because of a potential conflict of interest. So,
Yeah.
but because of the low dollar amount and it's not real significant, I say just have Terry go ahead and hire a contractor to get it repaired. That's all.
Thank you.
All right.
As far as the
And then
window
windows-
portion, which we've had discussion about, but no motion or anything, I'll get with Steve, I'll do some preliminaries. So when you're ready to have that discussion, I have some information.
Great.
And you know what? Now that we're thinking about that, if it's us, when you talk to Steve, Terry, ask him about the grant that he was applying for the windows, and would it maybe score a little better if it's the village applying for it versus them? Yeah.
This might be
So,
something we
okay.
may not be able to do until next budget period, which would be 2022, just not knowing how much they're going to cost, because that will come out of the general fund. So, and I know the general fund has funds, but we didn't budget for it this year. But let me do some investigation and get some costs so we know what we're talking about, black and
Yeah.
white.
So can we leave this on the agenda then as old business so we don't lose track of it, so that next meeting, if you have updates, we have them, and if not, we can keep it on there?
Would it go through here or through committee, Mayor?
Well, let's leave it on the agenda here for council, but if you have something, I think typically the building stuff goes through service committee, which we have at the next council meeting anyway, so we can put it on the agenda there as well.
If I can get it turned around that fast, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good deal.
I got a question on the
Any-
windows. Are you looking
Yeah.
at to repair them or replace them or both? Because if you're just gonna caulk them, it's gonna be a lot cheaper than replace them.
To be honest,
Chuck.
at this point, the wood involved in those windows, you need to replace them or you're just wasting money.
Well, that's what I'm gonna say, is the frame that point that you can't do anything with them.
Yeah, they make really good quality insert windows, which are, and I don't want to be involved. I mean, I've tried to be involved, but I really don't want to be involved because people think things. So they make great insert windows that would fit right in the existing frames. Those existing frames are apparently are cypress because they've lasted this long, and pine frames would not have. So there's some amazing options. And to be honest, I would like to help you recommend what we should be doing, but not actually be involved.
When Judith was having that looked at, there was a historic restoration architect that bid on that, and his input was that those windows have lasted 100 years. They can be restored and last another 100 years, because if they are structurally sound, they just need to be refurbished and put new glass in there, and they'll be fine for another 100 years. They were
And
built
most of
well
them
when they were
are.
originally built, and
Yeah, most of them are. Most of them are amazingly sound.
they can be restored, sealed, and put new glass in it, and they'll last another 100 years. It'll
Which I
keep
guess then
the,
begs which begs the question though, can you put, and I don't know, Rick, you might know, I mean, because those are single pane windows. If you restore them, can you put a double pane window in those?
I think that's part of what he wanted to do.
Yeah, you can't. There's an insert window that uses the existing frame and trim
Okay.
to give you a better energy efficient window without changing the trim, without changing the frame, it's an insert window.
I know that
So
this,
when
if
you-
this is
okay,
a
so-
government, if this is a government building, it has to be bid out. There are certain carved out exceptions for that, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to picking a contractor, and with special, I guess, reasons such as historic preservation and the nature of the window and the nature of the preservation. I mean, I could be wrong, but
Yeah.
Well, realistically, what is likely to happen is you're only going to have a few companies that have the expertise to be able to come in and, number one, evaluate what needs to be done, give a quote for those repairs, and be able to make those repairs. So my hunch is you're not going to get a lot of regular window repair companies that are going to have the expertise to be able to do that. That's my hunch. So
yeah, the company that Judith had contacted does a lot of restoration work in Columbus, and is quite well known for that.
All right. So we'll leave this on old business, and then Terry gets it turned around for service. We'll have it there. If not, we'll keep it on the agenda so that it keeps moving forward, and we can work towards getting something done.
Yes.
All right. Next, visitors at meetings. In case some of you joined a little late during the public hearing, Rick was asking about visitors joining the meetings and why we do it with the email in. And I was explaining that when COVID hit and we did everything, a lot of the suggested best practices was the meetings be your council and administration, and people, if you want public comment, email in, and then you stream the meeting, because the requirement is the open meetings requirement is that people have an opportunity to observe the meeting. There is no requirement to allow them to participate in the meeting. Historically, we have allowed people to participate in the meeting via public comment. And so, we've continued that way. And Rick is suggesting that we open up this meeting to visitors to participants to be able to join instead of just watching on Zoom. The meeting would still have to be broadcast there, but instead of just having them watch there, have them have the ability, have the access code and the phone code to be able to join on the video and audio side as well. So, you know, I could go either way. I don't really care. You know, like I said, we've just been doing it this way because at the beginning that was kind of the, oh crud, we can't have an in-person meeting. Here's best practice. Let's just do this real quick so we can keep meeting and stuff. But Rick has a good point about people being able to participate. We didn't have a lot of people come to a meeting, but we had a few regulars from time to time. So what does everyone think on opening up the Zoom meeting while we're still virtual to basically to posting the code on the website so that anybody that wants to join can join up to 100 people, because that's our max limit.
We'll never hit 100 people.
Mayor, I'm in support of that. I think the more people we get involved that can hear what we're doing by opening up the table, I think that makes sense.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah, Cosgrave here. I agree. I'm for it.
Thank you, Wade.
Chuck, you good with
Yes,
it?
I was going to say something to that wait till everybody get done talking. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it too. As long as the mayor has a right to shut them off, you know, only let them speak when asked to speak. They
Mary, you
can't,
have a
know,
mute button, right?
I can mute them, and I can also remove people, which would prohibit them from coming back during the same meeting.
Yeah, which is more than you have in the building. So, I mean, that's, to me, that's way more control than you have in the building. So I think we should let them come into the meeting because you can mute them. And the fact that you can remove them is kind of troubling, but okay.
Well, and I agree to that.
I agree with Chuck's comment too, that as long as the mayor has the ability to use his electronic gavel and shut them off if need be, just to prevent unruliness or you know, people talking over top of each other or arguing, that sort of thing. I think it's a good idea to open it up. So that's the whole spirit of having public meetings and inviting the public to attend. So
Yeah, clearly there's more control here than there was if we were in person.
So what I'll do then, because it sounds like everybody's in favor of it, and so what I'll do is I'll throw together a quick one-liner thing so that if visitors do join at the beginning of each meeting, that basically outlines the rules and what could happen. I'll run it by Jeff, and then as visitors join, we'll make that, you know, so that everybody knows if you join, you know, the common courtesy rules that exist just as if we were in person. You know, make sure that I include in there the disclaimer that if you have your video on, you will be streamed onto the meeting as well. So make sure you're wearing shirts and pants before you turn your video on. And we'll post that information then to the website for the next meeting.
Mayor, may I ask that one of those rules be that whoever is talking identifies themselves so Barb can capture that, because it's hard. Some of us sound alike, others don't. But if that would be one of the rules, please.
Yeah. So what I'll have to do is during visitors' comment, since we won't have an official sign in, when I ask if anybody wants to address council in any way, ask them to, you know, identify themselves so that we have that for the record and we know who we're talking to.
Yeah, and I've learned to start with my first name when I make a motion or something. I'm like, Foreman does this or Foreman does that.
Yeah,
I see that. So we just need to make that clear to them that they need to lead with their first name or last name.
Yep. So we'll get that. Okay. So we'll get that posted to the website, the meeting information. And we'll see if anyone joins at the next meeting.
Hopefully they will.
Hopefully they will. All right. That's all of the known new business I had. Does anybody else have any new business? All right. Then our next meeting is scheduled for April 26th at 7:30. If there's nothing else for council. Oop, speaking of visitors, I better double check and just make sure I didn't get an email. And I don't see any. So if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make
Mayor,
that
I'd like
motion,
to
sir.
move to adjourn this meeting.
All right, McCreary. McCreary, adjourn. Who else was trying to get in there?
Mike
Hamilton
Hamilton.
seconded.
Mike
All right, Hamilton
Let
seconded.
somebody else have it.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, unanimous. We are adjourned at, what time is it?
8:55.
8:55.
Good night, folks.
Good meeting, everyone. Good night.
Good
Good night,
night,
everybody.